Hello, weary traveler. Welcome back to the Candlelit Journal, a place where the fire burns low and steady, where strangers become companions, and where even the longest journeys find rest. Tonight, we return to the Crossroads Inn as autumn draws toward its close. The leaves have fallen, the branches stand bare against gray skies, and the first whispers of winter drift down from the northern mountains. In this season of endings and preparations, travelers carry heavier burdens than usual, not just in their packs, but in their hearts. In the pages ahead, you will meet an aging knight carrying a banner he swore to plant at a place that may no longer exist. You will hear the tale of a forester whose boots bear marks he will not explain. A young woman who reads the stars and swears they behave strangely above this crossroads, and others whose paths converge in these final golden days before the cold arrives. So settle in. Let the warmth of the hearth find you. And listen as the innkeeper's pen moves across the page, recording what it means to keep faith with something when the world has changed around you.
The oak tree stands naked now. I walked out to it this morning, as do each day, carrying a cup of tea that steamed in the cold air, and I stood beneath its great spreading arms and looked up at what remained. The leaves are gone, every one of them swept away by the wind that howled through 2 nights past. What remains is the architecture of the thing, the massive trunk wider than 3 men could circle with their arms, the great limbs reaching outward and upward like prayers frozen in wood, the smaller branches splitting and splitting again until they become traceries as fine as thread against the pale gray sky. It is strange how a tree can look both more and less itself when stripped of its leaves. Less because the green canopy that made it a landmark visible for miles has vanished. More because now you can see the true shape of what has been growing all these years. Every branch that reached for light, every twist where the wind pushed back, every scar where a limb fell or was cut away. The ribbons remain, of course, hundreds of them, tied by travelers over more years than I have been alive. They flutter and snap in the cold breeze, faded by sun and rain to colors that are only suggestions of what they once were. Red become pink, become almost white. Blue become gray, become the color of old water. Green become the brown of dried sage. I touched one of them this morning. A ribbon of what might once have been yellow, tied to a low branch within easy reach. The fabric was soft with age, almost furry, and when I let it go, it swung slowly in the wind like a tired hand waving goodbye. Who tied you here, I thought? What did you wish for? Did it come true? The ribbon did not answer. Ribbons rarely do. I returned to the inn with my empty cup and set about the morning work. The common room needed sweeping, the fire needed building up, and there was bread rising in the kitchen that would need to go into the clay oven before midday. These are the rhythms of my life here at the crossroads, the daily tasks that keep the inn alive and ready for whoever might arrive. The first traveler came at mid-morning. I heard the horse before I saw it, the slow, heavy clop of hooves on the packed earth of the road, deliberate and measured. Most horses that come to the crossroads are in a hurry, driven by riders eager to reach their destination. This horse sounded different. This horse sounded like it had nowhere left to hurry to. I stepped outside to see a gray destrier approaching from the southern road. The horse was massive, even for a war horse. Tall and broad-chested, with a mane that had gone white around the edges. On its back sat a man in armor, not the bright, polished armor of parade and tournament, but working armor, mail and plate that had seen years of use, dented in places, mended in others, worn to a dull finish that spoke of countless hours of care. The man wore a surcoat over the armor, blue with a device I did not recognize, a silver tower on a field of stars. The surcoat was faded and patched, the silver tower more gray than silver now, the stars barely visible against the weathered fabric. He was old. That was my first clear thought as he drew nearer. Not ancient, perhaps, but certainly past the years when most men put aside the sword and mail for quieter pursuits. His hair was iron gray beneath the helm he had pushed back from his face, and his beard was the same color, cropped short and neat. His eyes were the pale blue of the winter sky, and they held a weariness that seemed to go deeper than mere physical fatigue. He reined in the destrier at the edge of the road where the crossroads met the path to my door, and he sat there for a long moment, looking at the inn. Then he looked at the oak tree, then back at the inn. "Is this the Crossroads Inn?" he asked. His voice was hoarse, as if he had not used it in some time, but beneath the roughness was a quality of command, the voice of a man accustomed to giving orders and having them obeyed. "It is," I said. "You're welcome here, Sir Knight. There is room in the stable for your horse and room by the fire for yourself." He nodded slowly, but did not move to dismount. His eyes returned to the oak tree, and I saw something pass across his face. Recognition, perhaps, or something close to it. "I have heard of this place," he said quietly. "The inn at the crossroads where the roads meet. The oak tree where travelers taught their prayers." He was silent for a moment. I did not think I would find it. "Many travelers say the same," I told him. "The crossroads has a way of being found when it is needed." He looked at me then, really looked, and I felt the weight of his gaze, the assessment of a man who had spent a lifetime judging friend from foe, truth from lie. Whatever he saw seemed to satisfy him, because he finally swung down from the destrier with a creak of leather and mail. "My name is Sir Aldric of Thornhaven," he said. "I have been riding for a very long time, and I am weary beyond words. If you have a bed and a meal to offer, I would be grateful." "I have both," I said. "Come inside. I will see to your horse." He started to protest. I could see it in his face, the instinct of a knight to care for his own mount, but exhaustion won over pride. He handed me the reins with a nod of thanks and walked stiffly toward the inn door, moving like a man whose joints had forgotten how to bend without complaint. The destrier, he told me later it was named Covenant, was as weary as its rider. I led it to the stable and removed its tack slowly, speaking softly all the while. The horse's ears flicked toward my voice, and when I brought water and oats, it drank and ate with the steady determination of an animal that had learned not to waste anything offered. I brushed the dust of the road from its gray coat and found, beneath the weariness, a horse that had been magnificent once. The lines, were still there. The powerful shoulders, the deep chest, the legs that had carried an armored knight across distances most animals could not survive. But age and hard travel had taken their toll. There were white hairs spreading up from the muzzle, and the ribs showed more than they should. And when I ran my hand along the left foreleg, I felt the slight heat of an old strain that had never fully healed. "You have carried him a long way, haven't you?" I murmured. Covenant merely huffed into the water bucket, which I took for agreement. When I returned to the common room, Sir Aldric was sitting at the table nearest the fire, his armor removed and stacked carefully against the wall. Without the mail and plate, he seemed smaller somehow, still broad across the shoulders, still carrying the muscle that years of sword work had built, but reduced, human. He wore a simple tunic beneath the armor, gray wool that had been mended at the elbows, and he held his hands toward the fire as if he could not quite believe its warmth was real. I brought him bread and cheese and a bowl of the root vegetable stew that had been simmering since morning. He ate slowly, methodically, in the way of a man who had learned to make every meal count, because he could never be certain when the next might come. I did not press him with questions. That is not my way. The crossroads teaches patience. Travelers share what they wish to share when they are ready to share it. I busied myself with other tasks, feeding the fire, checking the bread in the oven, refilling the knight's cup with warm cider when it grew empty, and I let the silence be a comfort rather than an expectation. It was nearly an hour before he spoke again. "The banner," he said suddenly, and I looked up from the pot I was stirring. He was staring into the fire, his empty bowl pushed aside. "I should explain about the banner." I waited. He was silent for another long moment, gathering his thoughts, or perhaps his courage. 43 years ago," he began, "I swore an oath. I was 18 years old, newly knighted, full of fire and certainty. I stood in the great hall of Thornhaven Keep, and I swore before my lord and all his court that I would carry the banner of our house to the Whitethorn Pass and plant it there, in the place where our ancestors first crossed into these lands. It was a ceremonial oath, you understand, a tradition. Every knight of Thornhaven swears it upon receiving their spurs." He fell silent, and I waited. "The problem," he continued quietly, "is that the Whitethorn Pass no longer exists. A landslide 37 years ago buried it beneath a mountain of stone. The place my ancestors crossed is gone, erased from the world, as if it had never been." I set down my ladle and moved to sit across from him. His eyes remained fixed on the fire, but I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands had curled into fists on the table. "And yet, you're still carrying the banner," I said. It was not a question, but he answered it anyway. "Yes." The word came out heavy, weighted with 4 decades of effort. "I have been carrying it for 43 years. The banner of Thornhaven Keep, blue with a silver tower and astas, rolled and wrapped and strapped to Covenant's saddle through rain and snow and sun. I have carried it through 3 wars and 2 famines. I have carried it across rivers that nearly drowned me. and mountains that nearly killed me. I have carried it when Thornhaven keep itself fell into ruin and its lords scattered to the winds. I have carried it when everyone who remembered the oath was dead, and there was no one left to release me from it. His voice had grown rough, and I saw that his eyes were wet, though whether from the fire's smoke or something else, I could not say. I am an old man now, he said. My bones ache with every morning. My sword arm trembles when I try to hold a blade. The horse that has carried me all these years is as worn as I am. And yet I cannot put the banner down, because an oath is an oath, because I swore before witnesses, before the gods, if there are gods, before my own honor. And if I put it down now, after all these years, what does that make everything I have done? What does it make me? I had no easy answer for him. Some burdens cannot be lifted by words alone. What brought you here? I asked instead. To this crossroads, I mean. Were you searching for it? He shook his head slowly. I was searching for the pass, or rather for where the pass used to be. I thought perhaps. He trailed off, then laughed, a bitter, exhausted sound. I thought perhaps if I could find the place where it had been, the place beneath the stone, I could plant the banner there anyway, fulfill the oath in spirit, if not in letter. But I have been wandering for months now, and I cannot find it. The maps are wrong, or the land has changed, or I'm simply too old and too tired to see what is in front of me. The roads brought you here, I said quietly. Perhaps that means something. Perhaps. He did not sound convinced. Or perhaps it means nothing at all. And I am simply a foolish old man who does not know when to let go. The fire crackled between us, sending sparks up toward the darkened chimney. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the shutters, and I heard the first drops of rain begin to tap against the windows. You should rest, I told him. There's a private room upstairs, a proper bed with blankets thick enough to keep out the cold. Whatever answers you are seeking, they will keep until morning. He looked at me then, and I saw the pride war with the exhaustion in his face. Pride lost. He nodded and rose stiffly from the bench. Thank you, he said, for the meal, for the fire, for not telling me I am a fool. You're not a fool, Sir Aldric, I said. You're a man who takes his word seriously. The world could use more such men, not fewer. Something shifted in his expression. Gratitude, perhaps, or the beginning of hope. He collected his armor and climbed the narrow stairs to the room I had prepared, and I heard the creak of the floorboards as he settled in. Then silence. I sat by the fire for a long time after, thinking about oaths and what they mean, about promises made in youth and the weight they gather over years, about the difference between holding on and letting go, and how sometimes it is impossible to tell which is courage and which is stubbornness. The rain fell harder. The white candle on the mantel burned without diminishing, as it has every night since the old woman gave it to me. And somewhere in the darkness outside, The bare branches of the oak tree swayed in the wind, patient as they had always been, waiting for whatever would come next. Entry 2, the 8th day of the bare branch moon. I woke before dawn to the sound of hoofbeats, not the slow, heavy tread of Sir Aldric's destrier. This was faster, more urgent, the sound of someone who wanted to arrive quickly and then perhaps leave quickly again. I rose and pulled on my boots and coat, stepping outside just as the rider came into view. It was a young man, perhaps 17 or 18 years of age, on a horse that was too fine for the plain clothes he wore. The horse was a chestnut mare, well bred and well cared for, with a glossy coat and bright eyes that spoke of expensive feed and careful grooming. The rider, by contrast, looked as if he had been sleeping in hedgerows. His dark hair was tangled with leaves and twigs. His cloak was mud-splattered and torn at the hem, and his face bore the particular expression of someone who was simultaneously exhausted and terrified. He pulled up short when he saw me, his eyes darting to the inn, to the stable, to the oak tree, searching for something. Searching for pursuit, I realized. This was a boy who was running from something. "Is there room?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly. "Please, I can pay. I have coin." "There is always room," I said. "Come inside. Bring your horse to the stable first. She looks like she could use the rest as much as you could." He dismounted clumsily, nearly stumbling as his feet hit the ground. A boy who was not accustomed to hard riding, I thought, though the horse was clearly trained for it. Someone else's horse, someone else's fine saddle and bridle, someone else's life that he had borrowed or stolen or fled. I helped him settle the mare in the stall beside Covenant. The old destrier nickered a greeting, and the mare responded nervously, skittering sideways until I soothed her with quiet words and a handful of oats. The boy watched me work, still vibrating with tension, still glancing toward the road every few moments. "What is your name?" I asked when the horses were settled. He hesitated. "Tam," he said finally. "Just Tam. Just Tam." I did not press further. Names, like stories, could be shared when the traveler was ready. "Come inside, Tam. There is porridge on the stove and tea in the kettle." The common room was warm with the fire I had built up before going to bed, and the gray light of early morning filtered through the windows. Sir Aldric was not yet awake. I could hear nothing from the room above, and so Tam and I had the space to ourselves. He ate like someone who had not had a proper meal in days, spooning porridge into his mouth with single-minded focus. I refilled his bowl twice before he slowed, and by the time he wrapped his hands around a cup of tea, the terror in his eyes had faded to something more like ordinary worry. "Thank you," he said. "I did not expect. I was not sure if anyone would take you in." He nodded, staring into his cup. "The Crossroads Inn welcomes all who need shelter," I said. "That is its purpose. That has always been its purpose. Even those who have done wrong?" The question hung in the air between us, heavy with whatever weight he had been carrying. I thought carefully before I answered. That depends, I said, on what sort of wrong we are speaking of. Have you hurt someone, stolen something precious, broken a law that needed breaking, or one that did not? He was quiet for a long moment, then slowly he said, I ran away from my master, from the life I was supposed to live. His hands tightened around the cup. I was a squire, training to become a knight. My father arranged it when I was 11 years old. He paid a fortune for the placement, called in favors that went back generations. It was supposed to be the greatest opportunity of my life. But I hated it. The words came out in a rush, as if he had been holding them back for years. I hated the fighting and the drills and the endless talk of honor and duty. I hated waking before dawn to clean armor I would never wear for battles I did not believe in. I hated pretending that I wanted to be something I never asked to become. He looked up at me, his eyes bright with defiance and desperation. I know what people will say, that I am ungrateful, that I am weak, that I am throwing away everything my father sacrificed for me. But I could not stay. I could not spend one more day pretending to be someone I am not. I thought of Sir Aldric sleeping upstairs, carrying a banner for 43 years because of an oath sworn in youth. I thought of the weight of promises made by others for others without their consent. The horse, I said, the saddle and bridle, they belong to your master? Tam flushed. No, I left coin from everything I had saved. It was not enough, I know, but I could not take a lesser horse. She would not have survived the journey I needed to make, and I could not leave on foot. They would have caught me before I reached the crossroads. Where are you going? West. He said it like a prayer, like a hope he was afraid to speak too loudly. The frontier, I have heard that a man can be anything he wants there, that no one cares who your father was or what you were supposed to become, that you can build a new life from nothing. I had heard the same stories, and I knew they were both more and less true than they sounded. The frontier was a place of possibility, yes, but also of hardship. Men and women went west to escape their pasts, and some of them succeeded in becoming new people. Others found that the things they were running from had followed them in their own hearts. But I did not say this to Tam. He would learn it himself, or he would not. And either way, it was not my place to extinguish the flame of hope that burned so desperately in his eyes. You are welcome to rest here, I said, as long as you need. The road west is hard, and you will need your strength for it. He nodded, relief washing over his face. Thank you. I will not stay long, just a day, perhaps two, to let the mare recover. Then I will go. Take as long as you need. I rose to tend the fire, then paused. There is another guest here, a knight, an old one. He may want to speak with you when he wakes. Tam's face went pale. A knight? Is he? Does he? He is not looking for you, I assured him. He has his own burdens to carry, but he may have thoughts about the life you have left behind. You can listen or not, as you choose. That is the way of the crossroads. People share what they will, and others receive what they need. The boy nodded slowly, though I could see the fear lingering in his eyes. He had run from one night. The idea of facing another, even an old and weary one, clearly unsettled him. I left him by the fire with another cup of tea and went about my morning tasks. The bread needed to come out of the clay oven. The chickens needed feeding. There was wood to split if the weather was going to turn colder. The rhythm of work has always steadied me, and I lost myself in it for a time, letting my thoughts drift. It was nearly midday when Sir Aldric descended the stairs. He moved more easily than he had the night before. Rest and warmth had done their work, though I could still see the stiffness in his movements, the careful way he placed each foot on the treads. He wore his plain gray tunic again, his armor left upstairs, and without the trappings of knighthood, he might have been any older traveler seeking shelter from the autumn chill. He stopped at the bottom of the stairs when he saw Tam by the fuel. Something passed across his face, the recognition perhaps, though not of the boy himself, recognition of a type, recognition of what the boy was or had been. "Good morning," Sir Aldric said, and his voice was gentler than I would have expected. "I am Aldric. You are?" "Tam," the boy said, drawing himself up with a dignity that was half defiance and half terror. "Just Tam." The knight nodded slowly. He crossed to the pier and lowered himself onto the bench across from the boy, moving with the deliberate care of a man whose body no longer did what he asked of it without complaint. "You were a squire," Sir Aldric said. It was not a question. Tam's face went white, then red. "How did you—" "The way you sat your horse when you arrived, the calluses on your hands, the way you hold yourself even now, straight-backed, chin up, like someone taught you that posture before you could walk." The knight's voice was not unkind. "I have trained enough squires to recognize one at a glance, even one who has been sleeping rough for a week." "I am not a squire anymore," Tam said, his voice hard. "I left that behind." "I see." Sir Aldric was quiet for a moment. "May I ask why?" The boy's jaw tightened. "Does it matter? You are going to tell me I made a mistake, that I have shamed my family, that I have thrown away an honorable path. Everyone always says the same thing." "Then perhaps," the knight said mildly, "you should give me a chance to say something different." Tam stared at him, suspicious and uncertain. Sir Aldric leaned back, letting out a slow breath. "I have been a knight for more than 4 decades. I have fought in wars I believed in and wars I did not. I have served lords who deserved my loyalty and lords who deserved only my contempt, and I have met many young men in my time, some who took to the sword like birds take to the sky, and others who were forced into armor they never wanted to wear." He paused, looking at the boy with something that might have been compassion, might have been memory. "The ones who were forced," he continued, "usually broke. Sooner or later, they broke in battle, or they broke in training, or they broke slowly over years of pretending to be something they were not. And then everyone stood around and wondered what had gone wrong, as if the answer was not obvious from the beginning. Tam's hands had stopped trembling. He was listening now, truly listening. "Not everyone is meant to be a knight," Sir Aldric said. "That is not a failing, that is simply truth. The world needs farmers and merchants and healers and builders. It needs poets and scholars and craftsmen. It needs 1,000 different kinds of people doing 1,000 different things. To force someone into a role they were not made for, that is not honor, that is waste." "My father does not see it that way," Tam said quietly. "Your father sees what he wants to see, what he was taught to see. He believes that the path he chose for you is the best one because he cannot imagine wanting anything different." The knight shook his head. "But you are not your father. You are not required to live the life he dreamed for you. You are only required to live the life you can carry." The boy was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "Do you truly believe that? After everything you have done, all the years you have spent being a knight, do you truly believe that it would be acceptable for someone to simply choose otherwise?" Sir Aldric's face grew distant, and I saw him touch the place at his side where his sword would have hung if he had been wearing it. "I believe," he said slowly, "that I have spent 43 years carrying a burden that I was never given the choice to refuse. I swore an oath in my youth because that was what was expected of me, because my father swore it, and his father before him, and every knight of Thornhaven back to the founding. I did not think to question whether the oath served any purpose or whether the tradition was worth continuing. I simply accepted it as my duty." He looked at Tam, and there was a weight in his eyes that seemed to press down on both of them. "If I had been braver," he said, "if I had been wiser, perhaps I would have questioned it. Perhaps I would have asked whether an oath that served no one was worth the cost of a life. But I was not brave, and I was not wise. I was only young and eager to prove myself, and certain that honor meant never flinching from a promise made. And now I'm old and tired, and I've begun to wonder if honor might sometimes mean knowing when a promise has outlived its purpose." He shook his head. "But I have not yet found the courage to put down what I have carried for so long. That is my weakness, not my virtue." They sat in silence after that, the fire crackling between them. I watched them from across the room, the old knight and the young runaway, both of them wrestling with the weight of expectations they had not chosen. It was Tam who spoke first. "I am sorry," he said, "for assuming you would judge me." Sir Aldric smiled, a small and tired thing. "I am a knight. Judging is what we are trained to do. But the longer I live, the more I suspect that the truest wisdom lies in questioning the judgments we were taught to make." The afternoon brought rain, not the gentle drizzle of morning, but a steady, determined downpour that drummed against the roof and turned the road outside mud. No one else would be traveling today, I thought. The crossroads would be quiet until the weather broke. I was wrong. The woman appeared as if from nowhere, stepping out of the gray curtain of rain with such suddenness that I thought at first she must have been hiding in the stable, waiting for a moment to approach. But no, her cloak was soaked through, her dark hair plastered to her face, and she moved with the particular determination of someone who had been walking for a very long time. She was perhaps 50 years of age, tall and lean, with the weathered face of someone who had spent most of her life outdoors. She carried a pack up on her back and a walking staff in her hand, and she looked at the inn with an expression that combined relief with something I could not quite identify. "You are the innkeeper?" she asked when I stepped out to greet her. "I am. Please, come inside. You must be frozen through." She followed me in, shaking water from her cloak, and I saw Tam and Sir Aldric look up from their places by the fire. The boy's eyes went wide. There was something striking about this woman, an intensity in her gaze that demanded attention. But the knight merely nodded a greeting and shifted to make room on the bench. "Thank you," she said, settling near the fire with a sigh of relief. I was beginning to think I would drown out there. "The weather came on quickly," I agreed. "Were you traveling far?" "From the north." She held at her hands toward the flames, and I noticed that her fingers were long and fine, the hands of someone who did delicate work. "The Star Cradle Observatory, if you know it." I did not, but Sir Aldric looked up sharply. "The Astronomer's Tower," he said. "I thought it had been abandoned years ago." "Nearly abandoned," the woman corrected. "There are a few of us who remain. Someone has to keep watching the sky even when no one else cares about what we see." "And what do you see?" Tam asked, curiosity overcoming his shyness. The woman smiled, a strange smile, knowing and secretive. "Many things. The movements of stars and planets, the patterns of comets and meteors, the slow dance of celestial bodies that most people never think to observe." She paused, and her smile faded into something more serious. "And lately, things that do not fit any pattern I've ever recorded." "What sort of things?" I asked. She was silent for a moment, as if considering how much to share. Then she said, "I have been traveling for 3 weeks, following a path that the stars laid out for me. A path that led me here, to this crossroads, though I have never heard of this place before and could not find it on any map." "The crossroads has a way of being found when it is needed," I said, echoing what I told Sir Aldric. "Perhaps." She looked around the common room, her eyes lingering on the white candle burning steadily on the mantel. "Or perhaps the crossroads is a place where the rules are different, where the boundaries between things grow thin." Her gaze returned to me, sharp and assessing. "The stars above this place behave strangely. Did you know that?" "I know that many strange things happen here," I said carefully. "The candle that never burns down, the oak tree where prayers seem to be heard, travelers who arrive at moments when they are most needed." "Yes," she nodded slowly. "Yes, that fits. A place where the usual laws bend, a place where the threads of fate converge." She pulled a small leather journal from inside her cloak, miraculously dry, protected by oilcloth, and opened it to a page covered in careful notations and tiny sketches of star patterns. Over the past 3 months, I have been observing an anomaly, a star that should not exist, appearing in a position that belongs to no constellation. It is visible only from certain locations, and it grows brighter each night. Sir Aldric leaned forward despite himself. What does it mean? I do not know. The admission seemed to cost her something. She was not a woman unaccustomed to uncertainty. That is why I have been traveling. That is why the stars led me here, because this is the place where the impossible star burns brightest, and I believe, I hope, that here I might finally understand what it is trying to tell me. She fell silent, staring into the fire, and the common room was quiet except for the crackle of flames and the drumming of rain on the roof. "What is your name?" I asked, realizing I had not thought to inquire before. "Isolde," she said, "star reader of the Star Cradle Observatory, or what remains of it." "Welcome to the crossroads Inn, Isolde. You are welcome to stay as long as you need." She smiled that strange smile again. "I suspect I will know when it is time to leave. The stars will tell me. They always do." The rain continued through the afternoon and into evening. I kept the fire built high and the kettle hot, and the 4 of us, Sir Aldric, Tam, Isolde, and myself, found ourselves drawn together by the enforced intimacy of weather-bound shelter. It was an odd company, I thought, as I stirred the evening stew. An aging knight carrying an oath he could not put down, a runaway squire fleeing the life he never chose, a star reader following an impossible light across the sky, and myself, the keeper of the crossroads, the witness to their stories. We ate together as darkness fell, and the conversation drifted from practical matters, the condition of the roads, the prospects for the next day's weather, to deeper things. "Tell me about the banner," Isolde said to Sir Aldric. She had noticed it earlier, I think, the rolled fabric strapped to the side of his saddlebags, visible through the open door to the stable, when I went to check on the horses. "You carry it like it matters more than anything else you own." Sir Aldric set down his spoon. For a moment I thought he would deflect the question, turn the conversation elsewhere, but something in Isolde's steady gaze seemed to demand honesty. "It is the banner of Thornhaven Keep," he said. "My family seat, though it has been in ruins for 20 years now. And yes, it matters. It is the reason I have been traveling for 43 years. He told her the story, the oath sworn in youth, the landslide that buried the Whitethorn Pass, the decades of searching for a way to fulfill a promise that had become impossible. Isolde listened without interrupting, her sharp eyes fixed on his face. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "May I see it?" "The banner?" Sir Aldric hesitated, but only for a moment. He rose and went to the stable, returning with the rolled fabric in his hands. Carefully, reverently, he unrolled it across the table. The banner was larger than I had expected, perhaps 6 feet long and 4 wide, made of heavy silk. that had once been a brilliant blue. The silver tower was faded but still visible, rising against a field of embroidered stars. The fabric was worn thin in places, mended countless times with careful stitches, and the edges were frayed despite the oilcloth that had protected it. "It is beautiful," Isolde said softly, "even after all these years. My grandmother embroidered the stars herself," Sir Aldric said. "When my grandfather first received the keep from the king, each star represents a member of the family who swore to protect the pass." He touched one of the silver shapes, worn almost invisible by time. "This one was mine. This one, here in the corner, she added it the night I was born." Tam had risen from his seat to look more closely. "There must be dozens of stars," he said. "Hundreds. The Thornhaven nights served for generations." Sir Aldric's voice was heavy. "And now I am the last night, carrying the last banner to a place that no longer exists." Isolde reached out and touched the fabric, not the tower or the stars, but the field itself, the faded blue that had weathered decades of sun and rain and wind. "The color," she said slowly, "it is the exact shade of the sky at twilight, just before the first stars appear." "Yes." Sir Aldric looked surprised that she had noticed. "That is deliberate. The Thornhaven tradition holds that the pass was first crossed at twilight, when the day was ending and the night beginning. A liminal time, a time of change." Isolde nodded, and something shifted in her expression. Recognition, perhaps, or connection. "A liminal time," she repeated, "like the crossroads, like the place where the impossible star burns brightest." She looked at me, then at Sir Aldric, then back at the banner spread across the table. "I think," she said carefully, "that the stars led me here for a reason. And I think that reason has something to do with you, Sir Aldric, with your banner and your oath, and your search for a place that no longer exists." "What do you mean?" the knight asked. "I do not know yet." She smiled that strange smile again. "But I suspect we will find out together, if you're willing to stay long enough to discover the answer." Sir Aldric looked at the banner, at the faded tower and the worn stars and the blue silk that had been his burden for more than 4 decades. Then he looked at Isolde, at her sharp eyes and her certainty, at the leather journal full of star patterns resting beside her plate. "I have been searching for answers for 43 years, he said finally. "I suppose a few more days will not hurt." The rain began to ease as we finished our meal, and through the gaps in the clouds, I could see the first stars appearing in the darkening sky. I thought of Isolde's impossible star, burning in a position that belonged to no constellation. I thought of Sir Aldric's banner, embroidered with stars that represented generations of oaths and sacrifices. And I thought, as I often do at the crossroads, that the threads of fate weave in patterns too complex for any of us to fully understand, but that sometimes, If we are patient and open, we are given the chance to glimpse a small piece of the design. The white candle on the mantel burned steadily through the night, as it always does, and somewhere outside, the bare branches of the oak tree swayed against the stars, patient as they have always been, waiting for whatever would come next. Entry 3. The 9th day of the bare branch moon, the rain stopped sometime in the night, and morning arrived with the sharp, clean smell of washed earth and the tentative gold of autumn sunlight slanting through the windows. I was up before dawn, as I always am, tending to the fire and beginning the day's bread. When I stepped outside to draw water from the well, I found Sir Aldric already in the yard. He stood at the edge of the road, facing east, his breath misting in the cold air as he moved through what I recognized as sword forms, the slow, deliberate movements that knights use to keep their skills sharp, except he had no sword. His hands were empty, tracing patterns in the air, and his movements were stiff with age and the cold, but there was a grace to them nonetheless. The memory of what he had been, preserved in muscle and bone. I watched him for a moment without speaking. The sunrise painted him in shades of rose and gold, and for an instant I could see the young man he must have been, fierce and proud and certain of his purpose. Then the moment passed, and he was simply an old knight with aching joints, finishing his morning practice with a sigh that was half exertion and half regret. "Old habits," he said when he noticed me watching. "I have done this every morning for 40 years. I'm not sure I could stop even if I wanted to." "Some habits are worth keeping," I said. "Would you like a tea? The kettle is hot." We sat together in the common room, drinking tea in companionable silence, while the others slowly woke. Tam emerged first, looking more rested than he had the day before, his young face less haunted by fear. Isolde came down later, her journal already open in her hands, making notations about something she had observed during the night. "The star. She said when I asked what she was writing. "It was visible for 3 hours last night, through a gap in the clouds, brighter than ever before." She looked up at Sir Aldric. It appeared directly above the oak tree, as if it were marking this place specifically. Sir Aldric frowned. "What does that mean?" "I'm not certain, but I intend to observe again tonight, if the sky is clear." She closed her journal and accepted the cup of tea I offered. "In my experience, the stars do not point unless they want something to be found." We were still discussing this when the door opened and another traveler stepped inside. He was a large man, tall and broad-shouldered, with the weathered look of someone who spent most of his time outdoors. His clothes were practical, heavy wool and leather for warmth and durability rather than appearance. His beard was dark and full, and his eyes were the color of deep forest shadows. He carried no pack that I could see, only a hunting knife at his belt and a coiled rope over one shoulder. But it was his boots that caught my attention. They were heavy leather, well-made and recently oiled. The kind of boots a man might wear if his work took him through rough terrain. And across the left boot running from ankle to knee, were a series of deep scratches, parallel lines, evenly spaced, as if something with claws had raked across the leather. The man followed my gaze and then looked away, his jaw tightening. "You are the innkeeper?" he asked, his voice a low rumble. "I am. You are welcome here. There is food and fire and a place to rest if you need it." He nodded curtly and moved to a table in the corner, not near the fire, I noticed, but with his back to the wall and a clear view of the door, a man who was accustomed to watching for danger, a man who expected something to follow him. I brought him bread and cheese and a mug of cider, and he ate in silence, his eyes never settling, always scanning the room. The others watched him with varying degrees of curiosity. Tam with nervous interest, Sir Aldric with the assessing gaze of one warrior recognizing another, Isolde with the sharp attention she seemed to give to everything. It was Tam who finally spoke. "Your boots," he said, and then stopped, as if realizing he had spoken without thinking. The man looked at him. The silence stretched. "Wolf," he said finally, "a week ago, in the northern forest. A wolf attack?" Tam looked horrified. "Are you injured?" "No." The man's voice was flat. "I was fortunate." That was all he said, and the way he said it made clear that he would say no more. But I noticed the way his hand moved to his side, pressing briefly against his ribs as if checking for something beneath his shirt. And I noticed the way he did not meet anyone's eyes when he spoke of the wolf. Sir Aldric, to his credit, did not press the matter. Instead, he turned the conversation to safer topics. The condition of the roads, the weather, the news from whatever settlements the forester had passed through. The man, he gave his name as Garrett, eventually, though only when directly asked, responded in monosyllables at first, then with slightly more openness as the warmth of the fire and the food seemed to ease his wariness. He was a forester, he said, or had been. He had worked in the northern woods for 15 years, maintaining trails and clearing deadfall and watching for signs of danger. But something had changed in the forest lately, something that made him decide to leave. "What kind of change?" Isolde asked, leaning forward with interest. Garrett was quiet for a long moment, then he said, "The wolves are different this year. Bolder, smarter. They hunt in ways they never have before." He touched his boot, unconsciously tracing the scratch marks with his fingertips. "And they watch. I would see them at the edges of clearings, standing perfectly still, just watching, like they were waiting for something." "Waiting for what?" "I do not know." He shook his head. "But I have worked in those woods my entire life, and I know when something is wrong. And something is wrong in the northern forest. Something that I do not understand and do not want to understand." The common room fell silent. Outside, the wind picked up, sending leaves skittering across the road. "You're safe here," I said finally. "Whatever's happening in the forest, it does not reach the crossroads. This is a place of rest, protected by something I cannot fully explain." Garrett looked at me, and for the first time I saw something other than wariness in his eyes. Something that might have been hope. "I have heard stories about this place," he said slowly. "An inn at a crossroads where the roads meet, a tree where prayers are heard, a candle that never burns down." He glanced at the white candle on the mantel, still burning steadily, as it had burned since the old woman gave it to me. I did not think it was real. Many travelers say the same, and yet here you are. Here I am. He let out a slow breath, and some of the tension in his shoulders seemed to ease. "Perhaps I will stay a day or two. Rest. Eat properly for the first time in a week." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Try to forget the sound of wolves howling at my heels." The afternoon passed quietly. Garrett slept for several hours, his exhaustion finally overwhelming his wariness, and the rest of us moved around the common room in our separate pursuits. Sir Aldric returned to the stable to care for Covenant, talking softly to the old destrier as he brushed its coat. Tam helped me with chores, splitting wood, carrying water, sweeping the floors, and I sensed that he was glad for something useful to do, something that did not require him to think about the life he had left behind. Isolde sat by the window, making calculations in her journal, occasionally stepping outside to squint at the sky, as if she could see stars even in broad daylight. It was late afternoon when she approached me with a question. "The oak tree," she said, "the one at the crossroads. How old is it?" I considered the question. "I do not know precisely. Older than the inn, certainly. Older than any living memory in the region. The travelers who tie ribbons to its branches say their grandparents did the same, and their grandparents before them. So, centuries at least, perhaps longer." She nodded slowly, as if this confirmed something she had been thinking. "And the incidents that occur here, the strange things, when did they begin? When you built the inn?" "I did not build the inn. My father did, and the strangeness was here before him. That is part of why he chose this place." I thought back to the stories he had told me, to the night the old woman had appeared with the candle that never burned down. The crossroads has always been a place where things converge, where boundaries grow thin. My father believed it was ancient, this quality, that it had existed since the roads were first laid, perhaps since before there were roads at all. Isolde absorbed this, her sharp eyes distant with thought. "The star," she said finally, "the impossible star that I have been following. It does not appear in any ancient chart, and yet," she hesitated, "and yet, when I calculate its position, when I trace the geometry of its appearance, the lines all converge here, on this crossroads, on this spot where your inn stands." "What does that mean?" "I do not know." She smiled her strange smut, "but I intend to find out. Tonight, if the sky is clear, I will observe from the base of the oak tree itself, perhaps from the center of the pattern. I will be able to see what I have been missing from the edges." She excused herself to prepare, gathering instruments from her pack. A brass tube that I recognized as a telescope, a compass, a stent, a collection of maps and charts. Sir Aldric watched her go with a thoughtful expression. "She is looking for something," he said quietly. "Something she does not entirely understand." Are we not all?" I replied. He laughed, a genuine laugh, the first I had heard from him since he arrived. Perhaps that is why we all ended up here, at the crossroads where the roads meet. The afternoon faded into evening, and the sky cleared as if in answer to his oldest hopes. The stars emerged slowly, one by one, and by full dark, the heavens were brilliant with them, more stars than I could count, scattered across the sky like seeds flung by a careless hand. Isolde left for the oak tree shortly after nightfall, her telescope under her arm and her journal clutched to her chest. I watched her go from the window, a small figure growing smaller against the dark, until she reached the base of the ancient tree and was swallowed by its shadow. The others gathered in the common room, drawn together by some unspoken agreement. Sir Aldric spread his banner across the table again, studying the faded stars, as if they might contain answers he had never thought to seek. Tam sat by the fire, staring into the flames, his face unreadable. Garrett had woken from his long sleep and now sat in his corner, watching everything with the careful attention of a man who had learned that survival often depended on noticing what others missed. "Tell me about Thornhaven," Tam said suddenly, breaking the silence. "The real Thornhaven, I mean, before it fell into ruin." Sir Aldric looked up from the banner, surprise flickering across his face. Then slowly he began to speak. "Thornhaven was built on a cliff," he said, "high above the Whitethorn Pass, where the mountains split to let the road through. From the highest tower you could see for 50 miles in every direction. The lowlands to the south, the coast to the east, the endless forests to the west. It was beautiful and cold. Gods, but it was cold. The wind never stopped blowing through those towers." He described the great hall where his ancestors had feasted, the training yard where he had learned the sword, the small chapel where the knights had prayed before riding out. He described the view from his bedroom window, the way the sunrise painted the mountains rose and gold, the way the snow glittered like scattered diamonds on the peaks. "I loved it there," he said quietly. "Even when I hated the cold, even when I dreamed of warmer lands, I loved it. It was home in a way that nowhere else has ever been." "What happened to it?" Tam asked. "You said it fell into ruin." "Neglect, mostly. After the pass was buried, there was no strategic reason to maintain the keep. The lords could not afford the upkeep, and one by one they drifted away to the lowlands, to the cities, to wherever they could find easier lives." His voice grew heavy. "My grandfather was the last lord to actually live there. After he died, the servants left, the stone began to crumble, and the wind claimed what remained. I visited it once 10 years ago. There is almost nothing left now. just walls and silence and the bones of what used to be. Garrett spoke from his corner, surprising everyone. "That is the way of things in the north," he said. "The land reclaims what we build. The forest swallows the roads. The mountains bury the passes. We fight against it for a while, and then we stop fighting, and it takes everything back." "You sound like you have seen it often," Sir Aldric said. "I have spent 15 years watching it happen. Villages abandoned because the winters grew too hard. Trails overgrown because no one was left to walk them. Guard posts empty because there was nothing left to guard." Garrett shook his head. "The North is beautiful, but it is not kind. It does not forgive weakness, and it does not wait for second chances." The fire crackled between them, and I thought about what they were describing, the slow retreat of human presence from places that had once been tamed, the land recovering what had been taken from it. It was not sad, exactly, or at least not entirely sad. There was something inevitable about it, something almost right. The natural order asserting itself against the temporary constructions of men. But it was also a kind of loss. Every abandoned village had once been someone's home. Every overgrown trail had once been someone's path to safety. Every empty guard post had once been someone's duty and purpose. "Perhaps that is why the oath matters," I said quietly. "Not because the past still exists, or because anyone remembers the tradition, but because the remembering itself is important. Because some things should not be forgotten, even when they cannot be preserved." Sir Aldric looked at me, and I saw something shift in his expression. Surprise, perhaps, or recognition of a thought he had been circling for years without quite grasping. "Yes," he said slowly. "Yes, I think that may be it. The oath is not about planting a banner in a specific place. It is about carrying forward what would otherwise be lost, keeping the memory alive when the stone crumbles and the roads disappear." Tam frowned. "But if that is true, then you have been fulfilling the oath all along. Every year you carried the banner, every mile you traveled, you were keeping the memory of Thornhaven alive. Perhaps," Sir Aldric touched the faded silk of the banner, tracing the outline of a star with his fingertip. "Or perhaps I have been so focused on the letter of the oath that I missed its spirit entirely." Before anyone could respond, the door burst open and Isolde rushed in, her face alight with something that might have been triumph or terror or both. "Come," she said, breathless. "All of you, come now. You need to see this." Entry 4, continued from the 9th day. While we followed her out into the cold night, all of us, Sir Aldric moving with surprising speed for a man of his years, Tam close behind, Garrett bringing up the rear with his hand on his knife. The air was sharp and clear, filled with the scent of fallen leaves and the particular crispness that comes just before the first frost. Isolde led us to the base of the oak tree where her telescope stood on its tripod, pointed at a specific patch of sky. She said nothing, only gestured upward, and we looked. The impossible star was there, I had seen stars before, of course, thousands of them on countless clear nights, scattered across the darkness like the white candle's flame, scattered and multiplied. But this star was different. It burned with a light that seemed somehow more present than the others, more insistent, as if it were trying to communicate something through the sheer fact of its brilliance. And it was positioned directly above the oak tree, so precisely centered that it seemed to mark this spot like a beacon marking a harbor. "Do you see it?" Isolde asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do you see where it is?" "I see it," Sir Aldric said slowly, "but I do not understand what it means." "Look again. Look at the position, at the angle, at the way it relates to the other stars around it." We looked, and slowly, as if a fog were lifting from my vision, I began to see what she had seen. The impossible star was not alone. It was part of a pattern, a constellation that had never existed before, formed by stars that seemed to have arranged themselves specifically for this moment. And the shape they made, a tower. Tam breathed. "It looks like a tower." "Not just any tower." Sir Aldric's voice had gone strange, hollow. "That is the Tower of Thornhaven. The shape is exact. I would know it anywhere." He was right. Now that I knew what to look for, I could see it clearly. The stars forming the outline of a tall tower. The impossible street burning at its peak like a signal fire. The surrounding stars suggesting walls and battlements, and the rocky cliff on which the keep had stood. "How is this possible?" Garrett asked. "Stars do not move. Stars do not form new patterns." "These stars have," Isolde said. "I have been tracking them for months, watching them drift into position, waiting to see what shape they would finally form. And now I understand why the path led me here, why the calculations all pointed to this crossroads." She turned to Sir Aldric, her eyes bright with certainty. "The oath you swore," she said, "the banner you have carried for 43 years, the pass that was buried by stone, it all connects here at this crossroads beneath this What are you saying?" "I am saying that the universe has not forgotten Thornhaven. That somewhere, somehow, the memory of what was lost has been preserved in the stars themselves. And I am saying that if you are looking for a place to plant your banner, you may have found it." Sir Aldric stared at her, then at the constellation burning above us, the tower of stairs crowned by the impossible light. "You think I should plant the banner here?" His voice was rough. "At the base of the oak tree, on a crossroads, hundreds of miles from where the pass used to be?" "I think the crossroads is not just a random meeting of roads. I think it is a point of connection, a place where the boundaries between things grow thin, where the past and the present can touch." She gestured at the sky. "The stars have remade the Tower of Thornhaven. They have placed it here, above this tree. Perhaps they are trying to tell you something." Sir Aldric was silent for a long moment. The wind stirred the bare branches of the oak, and the ancient ribbons fluttered and snapped. And above us, the constellation of Thornhaven burned steady and bright. "I need to think," he said finally. "I need time to understand what this means." "Of course." Isolde's voice softened. "Take all the time you need. The stars have waited this long. They can wait a little longer." We returned to the inn slowly, each of us lost in our own thoughts. The fire had burned low while we were gone, and I built it back up, grateful for the familiar task. Tam sat close to the flames, his face thoughtful. Garrett retreated to his corner, but I noticed that his eyes kept drifting to the window, to the sky beyond. Sir Aldric sat apart from the others, the banner spread across his knees, his hands moving slowly over the faded silk. He did not speak, and none of us disturbed him. It was nearly midnight when the fifth traveler arrived. I heard the knock first, soft, hesitant, as if the person on the other side was not certain they had the right to ask for entry. I opened the door to find a woman standing in the darkness, wrapped in a dark cloak, a small pack clutched to her chest. She was perhaps 40 years of age, with gray threaded through her dark hair and lines of grief etched around her eyes. She looked as if she had been crying recently, though her face was dry now, and her voice when she spoke was steady. "Forgive me for arriving so late," she said. "I saw the light in the window and thought, perhaps, is there room?" "There is always room," I said. "Please come in. You must be cold." Her name was Elena, and she was traveling from the south, from a small village near the marshlands where she had lived all her life with her husband. Her husband had died 3 months ago, she told us, taken by a fever that had swept through the lowlands in the late summer. She had nursed him through his final days, held his hand as he slipped away, and buried him in the churchyard beside his parents and grandparents. "He always talked about the mountains," she said quietly, holding a cup of tea I had pressed into her hands. "His grandfather had traveled there once as a young man, and he spoke of them until the day he died. A waterfall that sang, he called it, where the water fell from such a height that it made music as it descended. Eric always wanted to see it, but there was always work to do, crops to tend, reasons to stay." She paused, staring into the fire. "After he died, I found a map among his things, old and faded, but with the waterfall marked on it. And I thought," her voice caught, "I thought perhaps I could see it for him, carry his ashes there to the place he always dreamed of reaching." She opened her pack and withdrew a small clay urn, simple and unadorned. She held it gently, the way one might hold something infinitely precious. "I have been traveling for a week," she said, "following the map as best I can. But I am not accustomed to long journeys, and the roads have been confusing, and I was beginning to fear I might never find it." "The singing waterfall," Isolde said softly. "I know of it. It is in the northern mountains beyond the forest, a place where the rock has worn in such a way that the falling water creates harmonics, notes that shift and change with the seasons." Elena looked up, hope kindling in her eyes. "You know where it is?" "I have seen it on maps, and I believe," Isolde glanced at Garrett, "I believe our friend here may know the paths that lead to it." Garrett stirred in his corner. "The singing waterfall is 3 days north of here, through the forest. There is a trail that leads to it, though it is not well marked." He hesitated. It is not an easy journey, especially this late in the year. The weather in the mountains is unpredictable, and the paths are steep. I do not mind difficulty, Elena said. I only want to complete what Eric started, to see the place he dreamed of and leave a piece of him there. Eric was quiet for a moment. Then slowly he said, I could guide you. The forest is not safe for those who do not know it. But I know the paths. I could take you there and bring you back before the first snows fall. Elena's eyes filled with tears. You would do that? For a stranger? I left the forest because I was afraid, Garrett said. His voice was rough, as if the admission cost him something. Afraid of what was changing, afraid of what I did not understand. But perhaps running away was the wrong choice. Perhaps the right choice is to go back, not alone but with purpose, not fleeing, but helping someone complete a journey they started. He touched the scratches on his boot, the marks he had refused to explain. The wolves are strange this year, but they are not everywhere, and the paths I know avoid the worst of their territory. If we move carefully, we can reach the waterfall and return before the mountains close. Elena rose and crossed to where Garrett sat. She reached out and took his hand, a simple gesture, but somehow profound. Thank you, she said. Whatever your reasons, thank you. The conversation shifted after that, moving to practical matters. Supplies that would be needed, routes that would be safest, timing and weather, and the 1,000 small details that separate a successful journey from a disaster. I found myself drawn into the planning, offering what provisions I could spare, suggesting places where shelter might be found. Sir Aldric watched it all with a thoughtful expression, his hands still resting on the banner. When there was a pause in the discussion, he spoke. You are going north, he said to Garrett and Elena. Through the mountains? Yes, Garrett said. The singing waterfall is in the high country, beyond the tree line. Then you will pass through the region where the Whitethorn Pass used to be. Sir Aldric's voice was careful, measured. Or what remains of it. Garrett nodded slowly. I know the area. There is a valley there now, filled with rubble. The locals call it the Grave of the Road. The Grave of the Road? Sir Aldric repeated the words quietly. Is there any marker? Anything that indicates what was there before? Just stone and grass growing up through the cracks and a few twisted trees that somehow found root in the debris. Garrett paused. There is a cairn, though. Someone built it years ago. A pile of stone stacked at the edge of the valley, looking out over what remains of the pass. Sir Aldric's hands tightened on the banner. I would like to join you, he said, if you will have me. I am old and slow, and I will probably be more burden than help. But I need to see it. I need to see what became of the place my ancestors swore to protect. Garrett and Elena exchanged a glance. Then Garrett nodded. We will be glad for the company and for whatever stories you can tell us along the way. And so it was decided. 3 travelers would leave together in the morning, the forester seeking to face what he had fled, the widow carrying her husband's ashes to a place of beauty, and the knight bearing a banner that had waited 43 years to find its purpose. I watched them plan into the small hours of the night, feeling the weight of the moment. The crossroads had done what it does best. Brought together people who needed each other, creating connections that might never have formed anywhere else. Tam was the only one who seemed uncertain. He sat by the fire, watching Sir Aldric with an expression I could not quite read. Finally, he spoke. "What about me?" he asked. "Where am I supposed to go?" Sir Aldric looked at him for a long moment. Then he said, "Where do you want to go?" I thought I wanted to go west to the frontier to become someone new." Tam shook his head. "But now I'm not sure. I have been running so hard that I never stopped to think about what I was running toward. That is the hardest question anyone can face." Sir Aldric said gently, "Not what we are fleeing from, but what we are seeking. Many people never find the answer. Did you find it? The thing you were seeking?" The knight was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, a real smile, warm and aware and wise. "I thought I was seeking a place to plant a banner," he said, "a way to fulfill an oath. But I think I was really seeking permission to put down a burden I had been carrying for too long. Permission to let go of a promise that had outlived its purpose." He looked at the banner, at the faded stars embroidered by his grandmother's hand. "I think perhaps the stars were trying to tell me that the oath had already been fulfilled, that the memory of Thornhaven lives on, not in stone or silk, but in the hearts of those who remember it." Tam absorbed this slowly. Then he said, "But you are still going to the grave of the road. You are still going to see what remains of the pass." "Yes, because that is the choice I'm making. Not because I'm required to, but because I want to. Because it feels right." Sir Aldric reached out and placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "That is the difference between duty and desire, Tam. Duty tells you what you must do. Desire tells you what you want to do. And sometimes they are the same thing." The fire had burned down to embers by the time we all retired. Sir Aldric, Elna, and Garrett would leave at first light, and there was much to do before then. But as I climbed the stairs to my small room beneath the pitched roof, I found myself pausing at the window that faced east. The constellation of Thornhaven still burned in the sky, the impossible star crowning its tower. I did not know if it would remain there forever, or if it would fade once its purpose had been served. I did not know if the stars had truly spoken, or if Isolde had simply found a pattern where none existed. But I knew that something had changed tonight. Something had shifted in the fabric of the crossroads, in the invisible threads that connected travelers to their destinations. And I knew that tomorrow, when the sun rose over the bare branches of the oak tree, the world would be a little different than it had been before. Entry 5, the 10th day of the bare branch moon. Dawn came cold and clear, with frost painting delicate patterns on the windows and a thin mist hanging over the road. I was up before the others as I always am, building the fire and setting water to boil for tea. Sir Aldric was the first to descend. He had slept in his armor. I could tell by the way the mail had left faint impressions on his face where he had pressed against it. And he moved with a purpose I had not seen in him before. The weight that had hung on his shoulders since his arrival seemed lighter now. Not gone, but transformed into something more bearable. "I want to thank you," he said, as I handed him a cup of tea, "for your hospitality, for your patience, for not telling me what to do with a burden you could not possibly understand." "That is not my place, Pete," I said. "The crossroads offers rest and shelter. What travelers do with that rest, what they decide, what they discover, is their own affair. Still, you could have pressed, you could have offered advice, you could have tried to convince me that I was wasting my time on a foolish quest." He smiled, and there was warmth in it. "Instead, you simply let me be, and sometimes that is the greatest kindness." Garrett came down next, his pack already shouldered, his movements efficient and purposeful. The fear that had clung to him when he arrived was still there, but it had been joined by something else, determination perhaps, or the beginnings of courage. He was going back to the forest that had frightened him, and he was going with companions, and somehow that seemed to make all the difference. Elena followed shortly after, the clay urn containing her husband's ashes tucked carefully into her pack. Her eyes were red-rimmed. She had been crying again in the night, I suspected, but her voice was steady when she spoke. "I dreamed of Eric," she said softly, accepting the bowl of porridge I offered. "He was standing at the base of a waterfall, and he was smiling. He told me not to be afraid. He told me the music would be beautiful." "Then it will be," I said. "Dreams at the crossroads have a way of being true." They ate their breakfast quickly, eager to be on their way before the morning mist burned off. I had prepared provisions for them: bread and cheese and dried meat, enough to last several days if they were careful. Garrett checked the supplies with the eye of someone who had spent years calculating how long food would last in the wilderness, and he nodded his approval. "You have been generous," he said. "More than generous. That is what the crossroads is for. That has always been what it is for." Tam helped Sir Aldric ready Covenant for the journey. The old destrier seemed to sense that something important was about to happen. He stood taller, his ears pricked forward, his eyes bright, with a spark of the fire he must have carried in his younger days. When Sir Aldric mounted, the horse nickered softly, as if to say that he was ready for one last adventure. The banner was strapped to Covenant's saddle, rolled and wrapped in oilcloth as it had been for 43 years. But Sir Aldric had done something to it during the night, had tied a length of blue ribbon around the bundle, the same color as the faded silk itself, bright and new against the weathered fabric. "For the oak tree," he said when asked. If I return, I want to leave something behind. A promise that if the banner finds its final resting place in the mountains, its memory will remain here at the crossroads where the roads meet." Isolde came to see them off, her journal in hand as always. She had been making notations all morning, recording the position of the impossible star. as it faded with the dawn light. "The constellation will be visible again tonight," she said, "and for many nights after, I suspect. The stars do not make such efforts lightly." "Will you stay to observe?" Sir Aldric asked. "For a time, this crossroads. It answers questions I have been asking my entire life. I am not ready to leave until I understand more of what I'm seeing." She looked up at the sky, pale and empty now, except for the fading disk of the moon. "But I will be watching tonight, and if the stars have any more messages to share, I will be ready to receive them." The departure was quiet, as such things often are. So Aldric clasped my hand firmly, then swung into Covenant's saddle with an effort that spoke of old muscles and older determination. Garrett helped Lena onto the horse they would share, the chestnut mare that Tam had arrived on, which they had agreed to borrow for the journey. Garrett would walk, he said. He preferred it. He knew the forest better on foot. "May the roads be kind to you," I said, "and may you find what you are seeking." "We already have," Sir Aldric replied. "Everything else is just confirmation." They rode out into the morning mist, 3 figures growing smaller as they followed the northern road. I watched until they disappeared, until the sound of hooves faded, and there was only the wind stirring the bare branches of the oak tree. When I turned back to the inn, I found Tam standing in the doorway. "He left the armor," the boy said. "Sir Aldric. He left his armor in the room upstairs." I had noticed this already, but I let Tam tell me. He needed to say it, I think, needed to process what it meant. "Mail and plate are heavy," I said, "and the roads ahead are difficult." Perhaps he decided he no longer needed to carry that particular weight. But he's a knight. The armor is part of who he is. Is it? I looked at Tam steadily. Or is it just something he wore because that was what was expected of him? The boy fell silent, thinking. I could see the thoughts moving behind his eyes, the connections being made. "He said something to me last night," Tam said slowly, "about the difference between duty and desire, about choosing what you want instead of what you must. And what did you decide?" Tam was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I think I want to stay. For a while at least, not forever, but long enough to figure out what I am actually seeking, long enough to understand what I want my life to be, instead of running blindly towards something I have not thought about." I nodded. "You're welcome here as long as you wish. There is always work to be done at the crossroads, and I could use the help." Something shifted in the boy's face. Relief, perhaps, or the beginning of peace. He had been running so hard for so long that the idea of stopping, of resting, of simply being, seemed almost foreign to him. But he was learning. The crossroads teaches patience to those who are ready to learn. "Thank you," he said, "for everything. You can thank me by helping with the breakfast dishes. The water needs heating and the pot needs scrubbing." He laughed, a genuine laugh, the first I had heard from him, and went inside to begin the work. Isolde remained at the inn for 7 more days. She spent most of that time at the base of the oak tree, observing the impossible star and the constellation of Thornhaven that surrounded it. Each night, she made careful notations in her journal. Each day, she shared what she had learned with those of us who remained, Tam and myself, and a handful of other travelers who passed through during that week. The constellation is stable, she told us on the 5th night. It is not shifting anymore. Whatever pattern the stars were forming, they have completed it now. The Tower of Thornhaven burns in the sky, and it shows no sign of fading. What does that mean? Tam asked. I think it means that the memory has been preserved permanently, that whatever Sir Aldric does with the physical banner, whether he plants it at the grave of the road or leaves it somewhere else entirely, or carries it until the day he dies, the true banner of Thornhaven now hangs in the heavens, visible to anyone who looks up on a clear night. She showed us how to find it, the pattern of stars, the impossible light at its peak. And when I looked at it, really looked, I felt something I had not expected to feel. Pride. Not for myself, but for the knight who had carried a burden for so long, for the oath he had sworn in youth and honored through toads of wandering, for the memory he had refused to let die, even when the pass was buried and the keep crumbled, and everyone who remembered Thornhaven had passed on. The stars had noticed. The universe had taken note, and somehow, impossibly, it had created a monument more lasting than any nerve silk and thread. Isolde left on the 8th day, heading east toward the coast. There are other patterns to observe, she said, the anomalies to investigate. The sky is full of mysteries, and I have barely begun to understand them. Will you return? I asked. Perhaps. The crossroads has a way of calling to those who have been touched by it. She smiled her strange smile, and I have the feeling that this place and I are not finished with each other yet. I watched her go, as I'd watched the others, growing smaller against the road, fading into the distance, until she was just another traveler on a journey I could not follow. Tam stayed. He worked hard that first week, and the weeks that followed, he learned how to tend the fire, how to prepare food for travelers, how to care for horses in the stable and make beds in the rooms above. He learned the rhythms of the crossroads, the quiet hours between arrivals, the sudden rush when a caravan passed through, the long evenings when travelers gathered by the fire to share stories, and slowly, gradually, he began to heal. The fear faded from his eyes. The tension left his shoulders. He stopped glancing at the road every few minutes, stopped flinching at the sound of approaching hooves. He was still young, still uncertain, still figuring out who he wanted to be, but he was no longer running. He was standing still and letting the world come to him. Sir Aldric, Garrett, and Elena did not return before the first snows fell. I did not worry. The journey they had undertaken was a long one, and the mountains were difficult in winter. They would shelter somewhere, I knew, perhaps in one of the villages that dotted the northern valleys, perhaps in one of the abandoned guard posts that Garrett knew from his years in the forest. They would wait out the worst of the weather, and when spring came, they would continue their travels or begin the journey home. But on the winter solstice, the longest night of the year, something arrived at the crossroads. I found it in the morning, resting at the base of the oak tree, a blue ribbon, bright and new, tied to one of the lowest branches. And beside it, weighted down with a smooth stone, a letter. The letter was brief, written in a hand I did not recognize, but somehow knew at once. It read, "To the keeper of the crossroads, we reached the grave of the road. 3 weeks passed. The valley is as Garrett described, stone and silence and grass growing through the cracks. The cairn stands at its edge, looking out over what remains of the pass. I planted the banner there at the base of the cairn. It seemed right. The silk has faded to almost white now, and the stars my grandmother embroidered have nearly vanished. But when the wind catches it, you can still see the shape of the tower, and if you know what to look for, you can still read the name of Thornhaven. I will not return to the crossroads. The journey here has taken what remained of my strength, and I do not think Covenant or I have another such journey in us. But Elena has agreed to stay with me through the winter in a small cab found near the valley's edge. She says her husband would have liked it here. I think she's right. Garrett has gone back to the forest. He says he understands now what the wolves were trying to tell him, not that he should flee, but that the forest was changing, and that change is not always something to fear. I do not know if I believe him, but I have seen stranger things in my life, and I have learned not to question what others know in their hearts. Tell the boy, Tam, that the armor is his if he wants it, not to wear unless he chooses to, but to do with as he sees fit. Perhaps he will sell it and use the coin to build a new life. Perhaps he will keep it as a reminder of what he escaped or what he might have become. It does not matter to me. What matters is that the choice is his. And tell the star reader, Isolde, that I saw the constellation from the grave of the road. The tower of Thornhaven burns bright even here. At the place where the original tower fell, it feels like a blessing. It feels like forgiveness. Thank you, innkeeper, for the fire and the food and the bed, for letting me rest when I needed rest, and for letting me go when I needed to go, for being the keeper of the crossroads, and for making it what it is, a place where travelers can pause to decide their direction and find the courage to take the next step. May your candle never burn down. May your door always be open. And may the roads bring you travelers worth remembering, with gratitude beyond words. Sir Aldric of Thornhaven, Knight of the Realm, bearer of the banner, keeper of the memory. I folded the letter carefully and slipped it inside my journal. The ribbon I left where it was, tied to the oak tree bright blue against the gray of winter. When spring came, it would fade like all the others, becoming just another prayer in the collection of prayers that travelers had left over the years. But for now, on the winter solstice, it stood out like a beacon, a reminder that even the longest journeys come to an end, that even the heaviest burdens can be put down, that even the oldest oaths can find fulfillment if we are patient enough to wait for the right moment. Tam found me later that morning, staring up at the ribbon with tears on my cheek. "What is it?" he asked. "What has happened?" "Sir Aldric," I said. "He reached the pass. He planted the banner." Tam was silent for a moment. Then he said, "The armor. He left me his armor." "Yes, I do not want it." The words came quickly, as if he had been waiting to say them. "I do not want to be a knight. I do not want to carry that weight." "Then do not. The choice is yours." That was the whole point. He nodded slowly, absorbing this. Then he said, "What will happen to it?" "I do not know. Perhaps it will stay here in case someone else has need of it. Perhaps it will rust and fall apart, returning to the earth like all things eventually do." I looked at him, at the young man he was becoming. "Does it matter?" "No," he said finally. "I suppose it does not." We stood there together in the winter morning, looking up at the blue ribbon dancing in the cold wind. Above us, invisible in the daylight, but present nonetheless, the constellation of Thornhaven burned in the sky, a memorial written in stars. And the white candle on the mantel inside the inn continued to burn as it had burned since the old woman gave it to me, steady and warm, lighting the way for whoever would come next.
And so the innkeeper's entries come to a close for another night. Sir Aldric found his answer, not in a place, but in a journey, in the companions he walked with and the choices he made along the way, in the permission to let go of a burden carried for too long, and the discovery that the memory he sought to preserve had already been written in the stars. Perhaps you carry burdens of your own, oaths sworn in youth that no longer serve their purpose, expectations that were placed upon you without your consent, duties that have become chains instead of guides. If so, remember this: the crossroads is always waiting, a place where you can pause to decide your direction, a place where the past and the present can touch, and where new constellations can be born from the patterns of old. Rest now, traveler. The fire burns low and the night grows deep. Tomorrow, the roads will be waiting, and you will need your strength for whatever journey lies ahead. If you found peace in these pages, consider sharing this story with someone who might need it. Subscribe to the Candlelit Journal to return whenever you need a moment of rest at the Crossroads Inn. Until we meet again, may your roads be kind, your burdens be light, and your stars burn bright above you. Good night.